AOC's Tia defends President Trump. Jeffrey Toobin's back at CNN, and this time he's not pleasuring himself. And Joe Biden forgets. Hey guys, my name is Jason Wesley, and this is not a podcast. So if you saw my last episode of Not a Podcast, you saw where AOC tweeted, "Just over a week ago, my abuela fell ill. I went to Puerto Rico to see her. My first time in a year plus because of COVID. This is her home. Hurricane Maria relief hasn't arrived. President Trump blocked relief money for Puerto Rico. People are being forced to flee ancestral homes, and developers are taking them." Well, Tia comes out and she says it's not President Trump. AOC's aunt says Puerto Rico government to blame for her grandmother's hurricane struggles, not Trump. Her aunt said, "In this area, people need a lot of help. Many people have needed it for the past 4 years and haven't had anything." Yet she did not pin that on Trump, adding, "It's a problem here in Puerto Rico with the administration and the distribution of help. It's not a problem with Washington. We had the assistance and it didn't get to the people." Now, if you remember, there were a lot of Puerto Ricans and an anonymous police officer that came out and said that they had aid, but it wasn't getting to the community.
There is a small mountain of bottled water. There are boxes of baby formula and stacks of cots. Puerto Rico's governor says the supplies they have been there since Hurricane Maria, which hit in September of 2017. She has fired the island's director of emergency management. The situation came to light after an angry group of people broke into the warehouse.
Here's pictures of pallets of water just sitting on the tarmac that ended up not being distributed and going bad. There was also a FEMA official arrested for fraud, Hurricane Maria recovery effort in Puerto Rico. Makes you wonder why that story didn't blow up. Oh yeah, because President Trump was the target of the mainstream media. President Trump at the time said that they don't know how to spend the money they've gotten.
Understand it. But you do have a mayor of San Juan that frankly doesn't know what she's doing. And the governor, they got to spend the money wisely. They don't know how to spend the money, and they're not spending it wisely. But I'm giving them more money than they've ever got.
Now, Jeffrey Toobin's back at CNN, and he explains what happened whenever he was caught on a Zoom call masturbating.
In October, you were on a Zoom call with your colleagues from the New Yorker magazine. Everyone took a break for several minutes, during which time you were caught masturbating on camera. You were subsequently fired from that job after 27 years of working there. And you, since then, have been on leave from CNN. Do I have all that right?
You got it all right. Sad to say.
Y'all notice that dude in the background? That dude was all up into the conversation. Look at him, just staring.
What the hell were you thinking?
Well, obviously, I wasn't thinking very well or very much, and it was something that was inexplicable to me. I think one point, I wouldn't exactly say in my defense, because nothing is really in my defense. I didn't think I was on the call. I didn't think other people could see me.
Damn, Jeffrey Toobin. At least Pee Wee Herman was in an X-rated movie theater. I'm just saying.
Whoopi and Joy from The View, who can always find racism and sexism in anything, decided to find sexism.
Joy, do you think if this had been a woman, the response would be that people would be as respond the same way?
No, I mean, with all the men in CNN's payroll, they had to give it to poor Allison Camerata.
She then says Al Franken should be back in the Senate because Jeffrey Toobin got a pass?
The question is, who's allowed to do it? Who isn't allowed to do it? You know, does this mean that Al Franken, get him back into the Senate? Let's get him back. Because I don't know what he did that was worse than any of this. I really don't understand the rules and regulations of this, what's accountable and what's not accountable.
So Joy Behar is equating Jeffrey Toobin masturbating in his own home by himself, where he doesn't even know that the camera's going, to Al Franken, who purposely was assaulting women. Here are just a few of the allegations. Leanne Tweeden, a radio news anchor, says Franken groped and forcibly kissed her during a USO tour in 2006 before the former comedian was a senator. She says Franken aggressively stuck his tongue in my mouth when the pair rehearsed a skit that featured a kiss. Lindsay Menz says Franken grabbed her buttocks when the pair posed for a photo at the Minnesota State Fair in 2010. Two other unidentified women told Huffington Post that Franken grabbed their buttocks at separate events in 2007 and 2008. One of the women says Franken suggested that he and she should go to the bathroom together. Stephanie Kemplin, an Army veteran, says Franken put his hand on her breast during a USO tour in 2003. A woman described as a former elected official in New England told the Jezebel website that Franken tried to give her a wet, open-mouth kiss during an event in 2006. Tina Dupuis writes in The Atlantic that Franken puts his hand around her waist while the pair posed for a photo and squeezed at least twice during an event in 2009. But yeah, I guess that's the same, Joy. Now, Sarah's reaction had me rolling.
Sarah, because it seems such a strange thing to do when you know people, you've been working and talking to people. What's your take on this?
I'm sorry. I usually give women a lot of credit for multitasking, but this is a gear switch I could leave to only a man. This was during an election simulation, which is the most, I'm sorry, the most unsexy thing I've ever heard of. And I'm not going to be able to unsee this. I very much miss the days when Jennifer went to the bathroom and forgot to turn off her camera.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I know there's a lot of seriousness to this topic. It's just really hard because I can't fathom a situation where this was the option A and B.
I think Sarah's reaction was pretty much how most people responded to this, instead of clutching their pearls and acting like a shocked deer staring in the headlights. And speaking of deer staring in the headlights, President Joe Biden attended the G7 this past week and appeared to have lost his train of thought several times. Now, recently, Putin responded to Joe Biden calling him a killer.
When President Biden was asked whether he believes you are a killer, he said, I do. Mr. President, are you a killer?
Over my tenure, I've gotten used to attacks from all kinds of angles and from all kinds of areas under all kinds of pretext and reasons, and of different caliber and fierceness, and none of it surprises me. So as far as harsh rhetoric, I think that this is an expression of overall U.S. culture.
So this week at the G7, President Biden was asked if he stands behind that statement.
In a weekend interview, Vladimir Putin laughed at the suggestion that you had called him a killer. Is that still your belief, sir, that he is a killer? And I'll continue the trend if you don't mind of asking a second question. Do you believe if he does agree to cooperate, then what kind of a challenge do you find yourself in? How would you ever trust him? And if Ronald Reagan said trust but verify, what do you say to Vladimir Putin?
To answer the first question, I'm laughing too. Well, look, I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was there are certain things that he would do or did do.
Now, some people said that maybe he was listening to an earpiece for an answer, but that was a whole 6 seconds of nothing. And apparently there are many people that don't know what COVID is.
I know you all know, but a lot of people may not know what COVID is.
What the hell is that? I don't know what that is.
I'm curious to know who doesn't know what COVID is. I mean, are people just walking around looking at a bunch of people wearing masks and staying socially distanced and all these new rules, thinking to themselves, I'm in a glass case of emotion? President Biden also says that the Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers.
The Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers. The leadership of the Republican Party is fractured. And the Trump wing of the party is the bulk of the party, but it makes up a significant minority of the American people.
What? The Republican Party is vastly diminished in numbers? I mean, did he forget that President Trump got more votes than any other president in history? 74 million, even though mainstream media attacked him and running only negative stories, social media and big tech companies censored conservatives and completely deplatformed President Trump and removed videos about the COVID lab link because Trump said it, and then removed anything positive about hydroxychloroquine with a Z-Pack, even though we now have scientific evidence that finds that hydroxychloroquine, drug touted by Trump as COVID treatment, can increase survival rates by 200%, study finds. So even with all that, he still got 74 million votes, which was a 10 million vote increase from the previous election in 2016. Now, was that something that President Biden made up on the spot, or was it something just on his note card?
Joe Biden fiddles with a flashcard of anti-Trump talking points during a press conference in England. Biden brandishing the card labeled DOJ talking points while speaking Sunday in Cornwall. The cards include a number of pre-planned answers, that's including a claim that Trump, quote, abused power and that his Justice Department was out of control. This is the DOJ Inspector General has recently opened a review into the Trump-era seizure of some House Democrats and staff data during a 2018 investigation into leaks about the Russia probe.
What's interesting is that when you go to search for this video, Joe Biden fiddles flashcard DOJ talking points, OANN. It doesn't come up. But if you change your search engine from Google to DuckDuckGo, it's the first link in the search results. But back to Biden. When he's out in front of reporters, he's always mentioning how he's going to be in trouble.
I'm sorry, this is the last question I'll take, and I'm really going to be in trouble. I'm sorry I'm going to get in trouble with staff if I don't do this the right way. Jennifer Jacobs, Bloomberg. I'm leaving out a lot of people here. I apologize. I'm going to get in trouble. But anyway, we'll get back to that. You guys are bad. I'm not supposed to be answering all these questions. I'm supposed to leave, but I can't resist your questions. And I'm happy to take questions if that's what I'm supposed to do, Nance, whatever you want me to do.
But we have seen President Biden do that frequently. What we've not seen him do is answer questions like that without his aides screaming at him to stop. I have never seen a president, covering the last 4 of them, who is so protected by his aides in terms of often not wanting him to answer some questions.
Who's he going to be in trouble with exactly? Maybe he's going to be in trouble with his wife, Dr. Jill Biden. I mean, she was prepping for the G7 on the way there on Air Force One. She posted this picture aboard the aircraft. I'm just glad President Biden's staff can corral him back whenever he wanders off in a random cafe.
How are your meetings going in Cornwall, Mr. President? How are your meetings going here in Cornwall?
Very well.
Come on.
They always do.
But he was laughing it up with the world leaders at the G7. I'm not sure if they were laughing with him or laughing at him, though.
Those who have just joined us, some pretty spectacular weather with them. Prime Minister Modi, President Ramaphosa, President Moon, in just a minute.
And the President of South Africa.
And the President of South Africa, as I said earlier.
Oh, you did?
I certainly did.
Well, you get to mention it twice.
So I'll go over that again. Let me tell you, we're delighted. Mr. President, I'm glad to say we're joined by Prime Minister Modi of India, who's on the line.
Let's go.
So President Biden meets with President Putin this week, and just before the meeting, Russia provokes U.S. in largest military exercises since Cold War before Biden-Putin meeting. Russian ships are conducting the largest military exercises since the Cold War off the coast of Hawaii, sending the U.S. Air Force scrambling hours before President Biden meets Wednesday with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The exercises conducted by the Russian Navy in the Pacific Ocean, 300 to 500 miles west of Hawaii, include long-range bombers, surface ships, and anti-submarine aircraft. The U.S. Air Force scrambled F-22 stealth fighters from Hawaii in response to the exercises. Now, this past week, Putin was asked about Alexei Navalny, who is currently in a Russian prison, if he will survive.
И к человеку, о котором вы упомянули, будет применяться такие же методы, не хуже, это совершенно точно можно сказать, чем ко всем другим лицам, находящимся в местах лишения свободы.
His name is Alexei Navalny. People will note that you weren't prepared to say that he would leave prison alive.
Послушайте меня внимательно. Значит, его могут назвать как угодно.
President Biden said if Navalny dies, that there will be devastating consequences for Russia.
Now, you spoke to him a lot about human rights. What did you say would happen if opposition leader Alexei Navalny dies?
I made it clear to him that I believe the consequences of that would be devastating for Russia.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident he's changing behavior. What do you do all the time? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is that the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks, he downplayed human rights abuses, he even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin framed?
You don't understand that, you're in the wrong business.
Is the summit with China next? Cool, we need to load quickly, let's go, quickly, cool.
Now we'll see what happens, but it appears like President Putin's more like «Слушай меня, ты знаешь, что я говорю».